Alright, what is up everybody? It's 123 Stealth Bomber here, bringing you another tutorial on the Assault Squad editor. Today we're going to talk about while loops and if commands. Really what it's pretty much about is it's pretty much the same thing as endless waves as a couple of videos from before. It makes units spawn endlessly, but this time, instead of spawning endlessly until you hit finish, this time it sets a certain amount to spawn. So say if I, really quickly, say if I only want, say like 30 infantry to spawn, and then be finished, so no more, no more spawn after that, after 30, then this command will tell it to do that. Or for instance, someone requested that I have the problem that say like 10 tiger tanks are attacking. How do I make it so there's not that many? Well, the while command actually tells it to do that. And if command, I'm not going to go into too much as of right now. That'll be for later on. So for now, I'm just going to talk about while loop, and then later on in the video, I'll talk more about if. But very briefly, what an if command is, it just means if this happens, then that will happen. So in my case, later on in the video, I say that I only want a certain, once a certain amount of infantry are dead, then the vehicle and tank will spawn. Okay, so that's what it pretty much means, but I'll talk more in detail when we get there. So as of right now, what you guys are seeing is I'm just placing my units, getting everything ready. As I did, I have 3 squads of 10 infantry in the back, and for the attack, and as well as 1 BA-11 and a T-34. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to give it tags. I'm going to give tags to each in every squad. So that was I give it infantry 1 and a hidden tag. Same thing for this, but instead of infantry 1, it will be infantry 2 and infantry 3 in my case. Again, you don't have to call it inf 3 or whatever. You can name it anything you want, but for the hidden tag, you do. Now this time what I'm doing is I'm selecting all of them, and I'm going to give them a general tag, because this will come in handy later on. Just give them one simple general tag for all the infantry, okay? Or for all the units that you're going to use. I'll talk about more about that later. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just giving the tags to the vehicle and the tank. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give it waypoints. Really quickly, you guys already might know many times by now what waypoints are and what they do. I'm not really going to talk about them, because if you don't know really much about them, then watch my other videos, because after this there's a lot to talk about a while command and an if command. So I can't really talk about too much about this, but you already know how to set them up, I hope, if you've been watching my other videos. Now what I'm doing is I'm just setting each starting point for the infantry. Instead of giving individual like an individual category for each, I just gave it the infantry tag only, like the category, and then I just set 3 different types, and they'll spawn at each one. Okay, now I'm going to do the armored vehicle. Say I'm going to set 2 different types of waypoints. I'm going to make it say go this way for an instance, and then say the other way for another instance. So it randomly generates. Maybe it's going to go left, and then maybe another time it might go right. It's completely random. You might see in single player if you look at like the developer, when you look at the waypoints, how there's like a bunch of them attached to each other. This way, so they don't have to create a million tags, like a million categories, so they can just do one main category and then just have them go in random directions. And that's what this is what that's made for. So you can they fend off in different directions. Okay. Now we're gonna start scripting. Now I'm gonna give it a general tag, which it's gonna be called Russian attack. Now, if you want to categorize, this is how to do it. You give it a slash and then type it. type in your next category. And as you notice, see how it categorizes it, put it in a little category. So if you put, your main name, then a category, slash, then the other name, then it'll put it into the same category, like in a category. So it makes it more even. If you ever noticed in like the single player, it does the exact same way. So now what I'm doing is I hit add in the commands and I went to while loop. You add inside and give it its tag. And this time we're going to hit the count of less than or equal to, and we're going to type in the value of 30. So pretty much what this is saying is I want squad number 1 to only spawn 30. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add inside. Right click on while, and it's going to say add inside, and we're going to select access to waypoint. Give it its tag, its waypoint, select clone, and give it its approach. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to give it its actor state. Again, this is an optional, but this is just giving the characteristics to the units. I want them to be ready, and then they run at like an assault speed. Now what I'm doing is I'm giving it its delay. I always want it to spawn every, say like every 50 seconds. Actually, yeah. Now for the next one, you're gonna want to do is trigger. Now make sure for the trigger you add it outside. So don't right click inside the while loop. You make sure you do it outside. This means it works the same way, but if you put it inside, the trigger only works for the while loop. And if you put it outside, it'll work for all the other commands that are beside the while loop and everything else. Now we're only using the while loop in this case, so you don't have to worry about that. But say for later on for the vehicle and the tank, when we're using an if command too, you want to put the trigger outside. Okay, so right now I just hit start, and I'm just testing just to show you that it follows the waypoint, and then it's kind of like my endless waste video, how I started off with just one squad, that it's gonna spawn every 30 seconds, and every 35 seconds, and it only spawns up to 30 instead of endlessly. Now I'm not gonna sit here throughout the whole entire time until it spawns 30, but pretty much it spawns it very quickly because there's 10 units in each squad, so that means it only spawns 3 times. And when I did the less than or equal to, that value means that that once it reaches less than, if it's less than those number, like if it's less than 30, then that means it'll stop. If you do greater than, say 30, then that means it will constantly spawn. This is also another way to do an endless wave. You can make it constantly spawn over 30. And again, there you go. There's the last squad. And after that, if we waited any longer, they won't spawn anymore. That is the last squad. And pretty much the while loop is just saying, I want a certain amount of units to spawn instead of endlessly. And I just fast forward it for a short time, just to show you that no more infantry will spawn. Already 3 groups of 10 infantry already spawned. So, and as you can see, no more have spawned yet. So and there you go, it works. Okay. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hit finish. And we're going to start to script the other ones, the other infantry, and we're going to work on the vehicle and the tank. Okay. Now, this time what I'm going to do is it's the exact same thing, actually. So if you want to skip forward a little bit, you can. You don't have to watch this part because all it is just it's the exact same thing I just did. Everything is the same. The only difference is the tag I'm giving it. That's the only difference. I give it the same amount of time, the same value, the same count. Everything's the same. Okay? and obviously a different waypoint. So if you want to skip ahead, you can, but if you want to watch this, you can also do that as well. So for this squad and for the next squad, I'm gonna script. I'm gonna kind of go a little bit faster. So again, if you need to look again, if you don't understand it that well, just look at the first time because I am going a little bit faster this time on how to do it. Again, make sure, all I can say to note is make sure you have the trigger outside of the while loop. But then again, like I said, you can keep it inside the while loop. But if you had multiple commands, say if we added an if command and other delays, other stuff like that, you would keep it outside. If you kept it inside the while loop, it only works for the while loop and the while loop only. Because remember, a while loop just means that it constantly just keeps reading the same information. It reads from top to bottom, and once it reaches the bottom, it reads back to the top, and it keeps going until that set number amount of units are finished spawning. So once it reaches 30, then it goes straight to the trigger that we have it. Excuse me, and then it finishes it. Okay, now what I'm doing here is I'm doing the third squad. Again, it's the same thing, so if you want to skip ahead, that's fine too. It's the phone. Yeah, I don't know what else to say as of right now. Just wait until this is over, I guess. But again, so that's really about it. It's really simple. I mean, it's nothing more harder than what I taught you before. I mean, there's nothing really much else to say. It's just that the while loop is just added in, and that's all it is. Okay? But now for the BA11 and for the T34, I'm going to go a little slower because it is a little bit different. Now I'm going to introduce you to the if command. Now, if command just means if this happens, then this happens. Okay? So what we're going to do first is say we're going to go to commands. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So now we're going to go to commands and go to generic and look for if. Again, go to type and look for entities and select the tag. Now this time, instead of giving the vehicle tag, you want to select the infantry, because now we're going to say if this number, in my scenario, I'm going to say if this number amount of infantry are dead, then the vehicle will spawn. So this time I'm going to put dead and greater than 10. So if it means 10 or more are dead for infantry, then that means the vehicle will spawn. All the other commands will follow after this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add inside the if command, and we're going to select the while command now. Now it's after this, it's actually the same thing, nothing more. But now instead of 30, I'm going to put 4. I'm going to put 3. Actually, yeah, you know what? Let's put 4. So the most will be 4. Again, now you're going to right click on while and add inside. So we're adding inside an if command, and a while command is going to be added inside of there. So now we're just going to do an act at the waypoint and just do all the other commands that follow. Act at the waypoint, active state, delay, and then a trigger. Now, just to note really quickly that since now we have an if command plus a while command inside the if command, you want to put the trigger outside of it, because if you put it inside the while command, I don't think it'll work. I don't know, I didn't try it, but just to be on the safe side, just put it outside, because in this case, it will work. Because I have tested it, and it does work that way. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just giving it its delay. I'm going to put 40 in this case. And again, now this time we're going to add the trigger outside the while because it affects the while loop and the if loop. If command, I'm sorry, if command. So really quickly, what this just means is if a certain amount of infantry are dead, if it's greater than or equal to 10 that are dead, then that means the other commands, like the while command, will follow and the BA-11 will spawn. Okay? So now I just hit start and we're testing it now. So again, you already seen this part, except part that the other two squads weren't there last time. But the only difference now is we're gonna wait for the BA-11s to spawn. So we're gonna wait for 10 infantry to die first. So I fast forwarded just to make it a little bit just go a little faster. Okay, so there you go. 10 already have died, and as you can see, the BA-11 has spawned. Okay. Now every 40 seconds for the BA-11, another one will spawn. Now again, we always set the less than or equal to 4, so that means only 4 will spawn. Even if it's dead, doesn't mean the command is done. Another one will spawn later on in 40 seconds. And it'll keep spawning until 4 are done. And it's the same thing for the infantry. We set it to 30, and there's 10 in each squad, so that means it only spawns 3 times. Once it spawns 3 times, so there's 30. Even if a couple already have died on the battlefield, doesn't mean it's going to have fillers. It'll still stop after that. Okay, so you get the point. I don't have to keep going, but you get the point that it keeps going until 4 are dead. So now what we're going to finally do is we're going to add in the tank. And the tank's going to be the exact same thing for the BA-11. We're going to add in the NIF command for it. But this time, instead of saying like this amount of infantry are dead, this time we're going to say if this certain amount of BA-11s are dead, then the tank will spawn. So in order for the tank to spawn, the BA-11 needs to spawn. In order for the BA-11 to spawn, a certain amount of guys need to be dead. Okay? So it kind of goes in order. It's kind of like chronological order. It needs to, all these series of events need to happen before all these other stuff need to happen. Okay? So again, now I just want 2 to be dead. To spawn, I'm sorry. I only want 2 tanks to spawn. Now this time what I do is, when you're stating it, make sure you put not operable. If you put dead, it won't work. You need dead and not dead is for infantry purposes. Operable and not operable is for tanks and vehicles and aircraft purposes. Okay? And again, now make sure your tag is the unit that you want dead. We're going to add inside, and we're going to add in the while command, while loop. Give it the type of entities, and again, this time the tag will be the tank itself. We only want this certain amount to spawn. Now, in the if command, I made it so if it's greater than or equal to 2 that are dead or not operable, then the tank will spawn. Okay. So really quickly, now I'm just setting up the waypoints, and then right after that, I'll set up the actor state, and then after that, it's the delay, and then, of course, the trigger. Okay, where is it? Oh, there it is. All right. Again, I don't know what else to say on this part, but again, the actor state is just state all the characteristics. You don't need this. Again, as I always say in all my other videos, actor state is an optional command, so you don't need to add it if you don't want to. And finally, the delay, we're going to set to 50. I only want, we're only going to have 2 tanks, so I want 1 tank to spawn every 50 seconds. Okay? Just checking that, just making sure. Okay, it's good. Now we're going to hit start, and now we're going to wait and just to make sure everything works, which it should. I'm going to speed it up because this is going to take a little longer, since now we got to wait for the BA-11s to spawn, plus we got to wait for the tanks to spawn. Now, you're probably wondering, what's the whole point of this? Well, this is actually good for, like, say if you didn't, say, like, again, in the endless waves, say if you only had, like, a million tanks spawn, you didn't want that. Say you only want a certain amount to spawn. And say it's like an event. Say, like, if you kill this certain unit or whatever, then, it gets harder, you know? This is good for, like, defenses. Say if you want the enemy to get harder and harder every single time. Like, say, I didn't add this, but you can add, like, in a timer. Say if the timer goes by, if it reaches a certain amount of time, then, you know, this unit will spawn or whatever. There's a lot of things that you can use with the if command and the while command, but this is just one possibility. There's a lot of ways that you can use it for. And again, I can't go through all of them, but this is just one example just to get you to the feel of what a while loop does and what an if command does. Okay, now what we're doing is we're just waiting for last BA 11 to get killed. That one right there. There we go. Oh, and you can see in the background, there's the T-34. There you go. Those two have been killed, and the T-34 finally spawns. There you go. There you have it. That's all. That's it. Now, I'm also going to wait a little bit longer just to show you that that last other tank will spawn. We only made it so there's two. And as if you kind of noticed, there's no more infantry that spawned. That's because already all 30 for each squad have spawned. So there's no more to spawn. Now, even though the tank has spawned, doesn't mean the BA-11 is going to stop spawning. There's still another two that need to be spawned. So there's that one that you see right there, and then there's another one that still needs to be spawned within a certain amount of time. Same thing with the tank. The tank got killed, but now it waits a certain amount of time before the other one spawns. And there it is, matter of fact. Okay, so, yeah, there you go. There's the last two units that spawned for this whole fight. This is, again, like I said, this is good for waves and defenses. Say if you're doing like a defense for like a campaign mission, this is good, say, if you want to make it easy at first, and then, but you only want a certain amount to spawn, and then it gets harder and harder as you go along. Okay? So that's really about it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or anything on that matter, please private message me, put comments down below or on my channel. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like it and favorite it. Show this to your friends, because this is something you guys should definitely know about. This is something to definitely help you out when you have huge, massive attacks, something like this, okay? I'll be seeing you guys next time, okay? See you later.